more, we are joined by John Rose, the Chief Operating Officer at iJet International, which advises corporate, government, and commercial aerospace clients on travel intelligence. John, great to have you back this morning, and I've got to just retell this anecdote that I read through one of our in one of our Bloomberg stories about this, where one of our Bloomberg reporters was on an Air Berlin flight, and this person heard the pilot come on the intercom and say, "I know all of you on board right now are nervous. I just want to let you know that I have 2 pilots here in the cockpit, and I will do so for the remainder of the flight, even though I'm not required to do that." So you got to imagine everybody, John, who is boarding a flight is wondering about this. Shouldn't they just make this standard across the board?
Well, I think that's something that's going to happen globally. It's kind of a unique scenario where you have certain parts of the world that do not require 2 people in the cockpit at all times. We've already seen a number of air carriers change this policy overnight, and I think you're going to see it go global because our clients are asking right now not to fly on carriers that only have the requirement for 1 person in the cockpit.
But the bottom line, though, John, is that even if you have 2 people or more in the cockpit, there are just some things you can't prevent, right? So beyond having multiple people at all times in the cockpit, what could be done or should be done afterwards to try to prevent something like this from happening ever again?
Well, a few of the things that have to be looked at a lot more closely has to do with the psychological evaluation of the pilots. Should there be continuous insider threat monitoring to all the activities of the pilots, because they're entrusted with the safety of the passengers, and the passengers have no control over the situation, so they're asking that these individuals be continuously monitored for insider threats, such as this situation. As the events are unfolding right now and information coming out of Germany that this individual had a sick note, potentially suffering from depression, that should have been something that could have been triggered and found out by the airline so they could pull him out of service.
But how would they have found out, though?
Well, if you're monitoring the individual, you're monitoring everything from their social media to their medical visits to anything that could potentially make them unfit to fly. They monitor their health already. You know that pilots don't fly with severe medical conditions, heart conditions, blood pressure issues. That's why they have the annual physicals, and the flight surgeons are monitoring this. The psychological component of the pilots also needs to be monitored continually.
But they are already monitored, aren't they, John?
No, not at all. Not globally. They are not monitored. In fact, the international organization has already said that they don't find the psychological evaluations useful because they only do it either at time of initial screening or maybe once a year. It needs to be continual monitoring because an individual's psychological profile can change very rapidly, such as with this pilot where he went into it appears to be severe depression and conducted a horrific act.
All right, John, thank you so much. We're going to leave it there. John Rose, the COO of iJet. Thank you for joining us, and much more.